right, welcome to today's episode of Tomorrow's Leader, where we dive deep on all things leader related to leading yourself and leading others. I'm John Laredo, your host, here with Dan Henry, the owner of Homegrown Pizzeria in Holly Springs, my now hometown, right around the corner from me. Very successful business owner, extremely popular place here in Holly Springs and the surrounding areas. So it is a pleasure to have you on, Dan.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so there's a lot that I want to talk about with you today, but just for the people that are listening, you got all different types of leaders from all different types of walks of life. I think your story is a really cool one in that you've built and grown this business that's very successful in no doubt like super challenging times. But before we get into some of that stuff, why don't you just tell your story? How'd you get to the place you are right now?
Well, my wife Kimberly and I finished college in 1996 in Delaware, and we were kind of trying to figure out where we were going to go with life. And we both were interested in going to North Carolina, and we moved down here. She got a job teaching. I was looking around for jobs, and we had bills, so I took a job in a restaurant. I'd done restaurant stuff before in high school and college, and I started out, waiting tables, bartending. Was there for a year or so. Got hired at an Italian restaurant out near the airport. Kind of built my way up there. Was there for a couple of years. Became the general manager there. And during that time, I thought to myself, "What? Running my own restaurant is kind of what I want to do." That's what Kimberly and I decided that was going to be kind of our future. So we actually bought a sports bar in Cary, myself and the two owners of the restaurant where I was working. We were there for about a year and a half, and our family was growing here in Holly Springs, and the bar life was not exactly the best for a family life. So my partners bought me out there. We took those proceeds in November November 2002, and took over at Homegrown Pizza. So it was November 8th, 2002 was my first day there. The restaurant had actually been there for a little over a year when we took it over.
Wow.
Changed a lot.
Yeah.
Used some of my background and some of the things that they were already doing, and
Yeah.
went from there.
So this is now almost 20 years now that you've owned
Correct.
Homegrown. I mean, what was it like when you bought it? Was it 1 year in? Was it succeeding? Was it failing at that time?
It was doing pretty well. The owners also had a couple of other restaurants in Raleigh, and they realized that, Holly Springs, Raleigh. Now you might not think, all that much. Holly Springs, Raleigh is not that far apart. But in 2000, 2002, Holly Springs and Raleigh were like two different worlds. So they wanted to get out of the Holly Springs end of it, which turned out to be perfect for us because we had already eaten. Our family had eaten at Homegrown a few times, and we loved it. And then after we sold our part of the sports bar, I found out that Homegrown was for sale, and I was like, "Wow, this is like a dream." Like, in Holly Springs, there's, I live here. We moved here in 1998, and
Yeah.
now all of a sudden there's this really the only sit down restaurant in town that's available.
Wow.
So we took it over. Like I said, November 2002. The restaurant was great. The pizza was great. I really didn't change a lot on the pizza side. I changed pretty much everything else. The rest of the menu I completely redid using my experience that I had over the years in restaurants.
Yeah. So you kept the pizza, you changed the rest of the menu. How about the staff and everything? Did you have to rehire everybody?
No, most of the staff, there were two managers when I took over. One left right away to go with the other owners to their place in Raleigh, and the other one, we had an arrangement for the other manager to stay. Which the funny thing is, like, I had spent a lot of time working in restaurants, but I'd never made a pizza in my life. I knew nothing about pizza, so I asked in the negotiations if, for like 3 months or so, I could, hire on the manager that was there and keep her there so she could pretty much show me how to make pizza.
Mm.
It actually ended up, I think she was there, decided not to leave and go back with them, and she stayed with us for a little over a year. So
So let me ask you that, because there's a lot of people out there, a lot of leaders, and think about just business owners, that people are buying into a business and they're thinking about, okay, well, I've got to buy into something, or they're trying to wonder, do I need to buy into something that I know that business inside and out, or the product or service? Or they're thinking, okay, well, I need to be a good leader, and I need to lead effectively and then build a team of people who knows that business. I mean, what is that? What's your thought? I mean, do you need to, in your case, you did it without knowing how, you know, to make a pizza, or you didn't know that
yeah,
business and you made it
right.
work.
I didn't know the pizza side of it, but I did have a pretty good background in the restaurant side of it. Um, so everything else that went with it along with it. I felt really confident at. It was just making the pizza that I was kind of
Mhm.
um, lost on at first, but I'm a hands-on person, so I just jumped right in and figured it out. I mean, kind of like the restaurant business. Everybody goes out to eat, right? So people all the time are telling me, I've always wanted to own a restaurant. I've always wanted to open my own restaurant, and I'm always a little nervous for that if they've never worked in a restaurant before. So I usually say to them, hey, listen, if this is something you really want to do, you need to get some working knowledge of the restaurant business, because it's such a small margin between
Yeah.
success and failure. So I tell people, you should go to your favorite restaurant, tell the owner that you'll do everything with them for 6 months.
Hmm.
And after those 6 months, if you still feel like, hey, a restaurant is something I want to do, then you should take the next step.
That's good.
Or you could just give me a check for $50,000 and I'll give you a swift kick and we'll call it even.
Well, what percentage of restaurants fail? Do you know?
Uh, I don't know the exact number, but the vast majority within 2 years.
Yeah. So
Fail.
so when you think about, like, okay, you succeeded. You're one of the small percentage of businesses that not only succeeded, but you've now almost hitting on 20 years of success, and I'm sure rough times in there at different periods of time. But what is the difference? I mean, what's the difference between you and what you've done versus the others that haven't made it?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I'm a hard worker bee in my nature. So part of it was I'm gonna do whatever it takes. Working, I spent many years working 100-hour weeks because that's what the business needed to succeed. Um, Obviously, also part of it is just luck. I mean, we were in a good location at a good time. Um, you know, and things just worked out well.
Mm.
Everything together to me. Um, I'll take credit and say a lot of it is just I'm a hard worker, and don't I wasn't going to let it fail.
Yeah, that's awesome. And at the same point, you're right. Some things came together. This is a fantastic area. It's grown. So when you
Right, right,
combine
right.
really great hard work with a great product or service, and then you get some also benefit from some of the factors that might not totally be in your control, but
Right,
that
right.
goes into it a little bit. But bottom line is, the hard work is what keeps you going to experience those things, like the economic growth of the area around you or something
Right,
like
right,
that.
right. You can't get the luck and the economic growth and all the other advantages if you're not willing to put the time in to
Yeah.
you know
Yeah,
do
exactly.
what it takes to succeed. I mean, that's my biggest thing is,
Yeah.
people say, what do you do? And I do whatever I have to do that day. If I'm gonna be washing dishes that night, I'm washing dishes. If I'm working waiting tables, I'm waiting tables. I've done it all, and I kind of expect everyone else to be willing to do it all with me.
Yeah. Do you say that? Is that kind of a known expectation among your team there?
Um, I really don't say it. I mean, I say that to the management. I don't necessarily say it to the hourly staff. I mean, but they see it. If they've ever worked, everybody that's ever worked with me is like,
Yeah.
they know I'm there. When I'm there, I'm working.
Yeah.
I'm not a point and tell other people what to do. I'm right in there in the action.
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I wouldn't want it any other way.
and that's honestly, that's the most important thing, right? I mean, everybody's watching what the leader is doing, and it's
Mhm.
less about what he or she is saying. And you don't need to really say much other if you are demonstrating all the things you want people to do. I talk to leaders all the time, and they're like, I've got so much negativity in my organization, or I've got people that are not working hard, or they're coming in late, or leaving early, or whatever. And my answer is always, well, look in the mirror first, and what are you demonstrating? Is your attitude positive or negative? Are you leaving early or coming in late? Because it's really hard to expect something different of other people if it's not something that you're doing. And
Right, right.
my guess is in a restaurant like that, that's really, you need everybody. That makes all the difference in the world, I would assume. And you've got a team of people that are really, have this sense of ownership of
Hmm.
the place.
Yeah,
Because
and
I've been
most of
in,
the
yeah,
most of the staff there, that the ones that have been there, I have people that have been there 15 years.
yeah,
Um, they are. I don't really need to say much because they are the first ones to tell the newer people, like, this is how it's done. This is how we do it, and
yeah.
it's pretty straightforward.
Well, and you can tell that, because I've been in there so many times, and you get a sense. Like that's, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is you can tell, and that starts right at the top. But everybody in there, doesn't matter if it's the person behind the register or the person, cleaning up or making the food or whatever. Everybody's got a great attitude, and you can tell they
Mhm.
kind of have this shared sense of ownership of the
Yeah,
place, and that comes.
yeah.
Yeah,
It definitely is a very like family kind of feel.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of the kids that are working there, you know, I've known them since they were little kids. Or I mean, there's a couple kids that work there now that they're like the third sibling that's worked for me over the last 5 and 6 years.
Mm, that's awesome. And how do
Yeah.
so how do you let's talk about building that team. How do you find the great people that you have, and what's your thought on how you build a great team? Because that's also a lot of questions, a big question that a lot of business owners have or leaders have.
Right, right. That's definitely our biggest issue is, staffing, getting people. Once we get them, they're great. It's just, there's back in the day when there weren't many places for young kids to work in Holly Springs, it was easier than now when they're, all over the place. But I talk to the staff all the time about, hey, do you have any friends? Do because if you're a good worker, there's a good chance, I mean, not guaranteed, but there's a good chance that your friends are also going to have that good attitude and
Hmm.
want to work hard. So that's our biggest way that we try and recruit staff is, you know, referrals from friends,
Hmm.
younger kids. Hey, do you have any, if you're a senior in high school, do you know any sophomores that are hardworking? And, because we could use them for a couple of years. That would be great. Before a lot of them are, heading off to college,
Yeah.
and it's been like, they almost all of them have some kind of connection to someone else that's been there before.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of my daughter. She might be great. She might be
Yes,
a great fit.
sounds good.
And my son too. My son's a senior though, going off to college in August. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a great
That's
way.
a tougher one.
Yeah, it's a little tougher, but that's a great point, because my guess is and not unlike a lot of organizations, when you build a great team and people feel great about the place, they naturally are going to refer in people, and it's not like you have to go
Right.
on, careerbuilder.com or anything, and one of these websites, and find talented people. They probably all get just referred to you, and you get them through the people that are there,
Right,
right?
right. That's definitely been our best, the word of mouth and recruiting friends. When we've used some of the services and ads in the paper and things like that, it hasn't turned out as well as, just the word of mouth and friends of friends, and it's nice, you know, it's the good and the bad of a small business, small restaurant like we have. It doesn't take a lot of staff to keep us going, but also that means we don't have a lot of staff. So, and a lot of these kids are friends. So, they need the same Tuesday night off, which sometimes can be a little tough, but
Yeah.
18 years, we always figure out a way, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll do it, whatever. If I need to come in and wash dishes that night, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Everyone in my family has worked there or works there currently. My daughter's getting ready to go in a few minutes to go wash dishes.
That's awesome. So I want to talk about one of these moments, which is specifically around what we're going through right now, COVID. But especially early on, were there a lot of times where you were kind of, you had almost like the oh shit moments, like, oh geez, what do we do, and or the unexpected happened, or was it smooth sailing for the most part in the first year or two?
As far as COVID goes, or as
No, no,
far
sorry.
as
Going back to when you actually first bought the place. Yeah, was it right out of the gates? Was everything going smoothly? I mean, I know it's a long time ago, but or did you
I
hit?
mean, as really as smoothly as the restaurant business can go, it was doing pretty well. I mean, they had a good group of people. They had a good staff. Um, of course, there were some hiccups, and especially as I redid menu things, that there were some people there that had been there for a while and had done it the way they had done it, and you know, I, in that world, in that changing, there's always going to be a little bit of hesitancy or pushback. But again, I'll go back to it. I just started out by telling everyone, I'm not going to have you do anything that I don't do myself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the way I want it done, and this is the way we're going to do it. And for the most part, people will buy in.
Yeah, yeah. I guess.
So there were some rough times, but for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
knock on wood, we were lucky then, and we continue to be lucky now.
That's great. So, what is this last year and a half been? And for some people might be listening to this episode down the road a bit, but we're now in February of 2021, right? It's still in the midst and about a year after this whole COVID started. What did that do to the business, and how did you, pivot and adapt?
Um, it was rough, obviously. I mean, it's been rough for everyone. Luckily, the pizza wing model lends itself to takeout. So when dining rooms were shut down, we pivoted and said, okay, the people that were waiting tables, they're answering the phones now. More people were answering the phones, and less people were at tables taking orders. So it obviously business suffered, but it wasn't for sure catastrophic. I mean, I have a lot of friends in this business that definitely have had worse experiences than us because of their, style of restaurant. Thankfully, like I said, the pizza world, it lends itself to takeout, and it definitely, the fact that we've been here 18, 20 years, people have a sense of, trying to help us out as a bit, I've lived in Holly Springs since 1998. So I know tons of people here, and they all were, let's go, take out. So
Yeah, yeah.
where it was rough, I knew, this town, they have our back.
Yeah, that's great. And that seems like that's this community. But that doesn't happen without you, making building relationships and developing that following, I mean, that's
Right. I mean, we've sponsored teams and pizza parties for schools and forever. So we built relationships with the community, and luckily the community has welcomed us.
Yeah,
over and over.
that's awesome. How about with when you go through something that's major like this, and I know a lot of people didn't know really, and nobody really knew what to expect when this started in March of last year in 2020. Um, what do you tell what do you tell your team? I mean, what are the things that you're saying when you don't necessarily as a leader know what's going to happen? Because that's a lot of times what people look to a leader for is answers. But what do you do when you don't have the answers? I mean, what are you telling them?
A lot of what I told them was, we're just going to take this kind of day by day, week by week. I'm going to help you out as much as I possibly can, and I hope you're going to do that for me. There were a few of our staff that said, I live at home with my parents, so if you need to cut my hours, so some of the other people who have bills, if they need those hours, then so be it. So that was huge. I mean, everybody kind of came together.
That's
Um,
very, yeah. That's
yeah, and like you said, there was no answer. Like, and I was very upfront with saying, like, I wish I could tell you what we were going to be doing in 6 months, but I don't know. And I just told them, like, I'm going to do, sometimes to my own detriment, I'm going to do what's best for you guys, because without the staff, I can't do it. So
mm,
that was a big part of it for me.
that's awesome. And that I mean, you just think of that if I'm in an organization, if I'm one of your employees and I hear you saying that, I mean, that's got to make me feel comfortable to know that you've got my back. It makes me want to have your back and do whatever I can. I think that's how great teams are built, and that's how my guess is you don't lose a ton of people. My guess is your people tend to stay with you relative to other businesses, relative to other restaurants. They probably stay longer, and you have
Yeah,
less
the
turnover.
majority of the staff that comes in, they're there for a while, and very rarely do they leave for something other than, like, they're going away to school, or things like that, like, major changes. I don't really remember the last time that somebody left to go work at, like, another restaurant. It
Yeah.
really just doesn't happen. So I guess that means we're doing something right.
So one of my hidden dreams was owning a pizzeria because I'm like, that would be, if pizza's my favorite food of all time. I could eat pizza times a day. And I'm thinking, wow, what a cool business to just run a pizza place and eat pizza all day. And then every night for dinner. I mean, do you eat a lot of pizza? I mean, are you like your biggest
um,
customer?
I mean, not really, not like when I first got there, all the time, all the time, all the time. But it's hard when I'm there just about every day for 18 and a half years now. You kind of start to get tired of pizza, and you're trying to do different things, but then there's other times where I'm like, oh man, I just made myself a pizza and that thing was delicious.
Oh yeah. I remember
So
I used to work years ago at Pizza Hut. That was one of my first jobs, and I was a cook, and I would take a pizza home every night. That was part of your perks, and I just remember making these enormous pizzas, eating them every night. I was a high schooler, so it wasn't like I really had to worry about gaining weight. But I imagine if I did that now, or you did that, that might be
right, yeah, yeah, it probably would be a really bad idea.
yeah, exactly. Our bodies
I,
can't
I,
handle it.
I also run a lot, so I think about, like, well, if I eat a pizza right now and I go to run tonight, that run's not going to go very well. So
Yeah, right,
I'm
right, exactly.
conscious about that too, for
That's
sure.
funny. So do you with the I mean, do you have plan what's your vision with the business? Do you have plans? Are you expanding? Do you just have the one location? Is that right?
We do now. We used to have a second location in Morrisville, kind of many years ago, for a little over a year. Um, and I realized, before we opened that second location, my thought was, I'm going to be this big pizza conglomerate. I'm going to be worldwide or whatever. But then when we opened that, I realized that I'm I want to say controlling, but controlling is not the word. I'm very hands-on, and I realized obviously I can't be two places at once, and it just it was like eating at me that something would happen here that I didn't know about, something would be wrong, and I couldn't be at both places, and I realized that twice the number of restaurants was like 10 times the amount of work, especially being in Morrisville, because driving, I live in Holly Springs, driving back and forth. And I realized pretty quickly that any advantage of the second restaurant was eaten up by the stress that it was putting on me. I think if I were to do another restaurant now, I think I would be much better at it, because I have kind of realized over, I think that was like 10, 12 years ago that we did that. And I've realized that I can't do everything. I have to trust the people that I have and that I've taught to do it my way. And, they keep coming up strong all the time, and they're doing things the way that I want them to do it, whether I'm there or not. So probably it would have been nice if I had waited a little while longer before we did the second one, and got more comfortable with, showing someone else how to do it, and then letting them, do their job, do what I had taught them to do, and do what I know they can do.
Yeah. Yeah. So now at this point, does it make you think about doing that again now, because you're a little better at that position at that point to be able to do that?
Yes and no. Like, the idea of doing another one sounds good, but also the idea of starting over, at a new location, that's a pretty big heap of stress put on me, that I don't think I really want to get into now. I'm actually a partner in another business here in town, and that's kind of given me some of that. Like, I'm able to do things at a new place and stuff that I haven't done before, learning new things. But we also have a bunch of partners there, so it's not everything on my shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
that's been good.
So do you have, like, what kind of work-life balance do you have now? Are you still working crazy 90
No,
to 100-hour work weeks?
I really, I pretty much only work during the days now. I don't, unless something happens, somebody needs time off, a manager, or, we're short staffed. I don't really work at night that much anymore. It was quite a few years ago, kids were getting older and getting ready to play sports. And my wife said to me, like, the restaurant's doing pretty well. We can afford to pay people to work, so you can, go to your son's baseball game. So I went, I had people working and went to a couple games, and I was like, wow, this is fun. I played baseball my whole life.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do this more. So then I even took the next step and started coaching. And so,
Awesome.
yes, long story short, I'm pretty much only work during the days now. I don't work at night, like I said, unless something comes up. And I've given, it took me a long time to be able to, like, fully walk away and know that they're going to do what they're supposed to do. For a long time, even in the beginning, when I wasn't working 90, 100 hours a week, when other people were there, I was thinking, like, I wonder what they're doing now. I wonder what they're doing now. But over time, I've become more comfortable and realized that they know what they're doing. They if they need something, they'll ask me, but they know what they're doing.
Well, it's such a common problem. Like, I talked to so many different leaders, and the on one end, your stress is incredibly high because you're working like crazy, and you're working like crazy because you feel like you're too stressed if you're not there, that things aren't happening the right way. But what you found is what great leaders figure out is that, hey, as long as I develop great people and I develop the right culture and people have a sense of ownership of the place, and then I give them the room to actually do the job, they actually do it really well.
Right.
And I know a lot of people that believe best sign, the best sign of a great leader is the fact that when they're not there, the place runs as well.
Hmm.
and sometimes even better. I mean, who knows?
Right,
When
right,
you
right, right,
give people enough room to really totally own it and run it, it's amazing what people can do when they realize, okay, it's just me. And if,
right, right,
it's not like Dan's here or anybody else is here, it's me. I got to do this. So,
for sure.
that's cool. And then you get obviously more time and, you get your life back a little bit.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and then there was no like aha moment, but that there was just, I thought like one day like, wow, I haven't been at work since 5 o'clock and it's 9 o'clock, and
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking, what are they doing now? What are they doing now? I just
Yeah.
trusted that they know what they're doing and they're going to do what they're supposed to do. And
Yeah. Well, it's funny. And I remember I had a really good lesson that I learned. I remember, for years in financial services, I was running organizations. And I would, if I took a week vacation, I'd be checking email throughout the whole day. I'd be calling the office every day, talking to them, finding out what's going on. And part of it was, I just forced a habit. I wanted to stay close to the business. And I had one of my leaders tell me, they're like, listen, you're sending a message that you probably don't even want to send. You're telling us because you're checking in so much, you're sending the message that you don't have confidence in us and that
right.
you don't trust us to run the place. And I'm
Hmm.
like, wow, yeah, all right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never, that's not what I'm intending. And I never realized that, but you're right. So then I started like totally detaching and it was phenomenal. I felt
Right, right,
great. I could actually enjoy vacation and they felt better because it said to them that I trust them and the results were even better when I was gone in
right,
reality.
right.
It was,
Yeah, like a perfect example of something along those lines is um, we went on a cruise, a week-long cruise, and I'm on a cruise. I can't call you and I can't check in on you. And I came back and I had some 5-star Google reviews while we were gone, and came back and everything was still there. And I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, we can do this. Yeah, yeah.
that's
I
awesome.
still don't do it, as often as my wife would like for us to do, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I can walk away and I can be confident that they know what they're doing and they can handle it. And if something comes up they can't handle, they can ask me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's such an important thing. I mean, honestly, there's so many people that are just tied to their business and they have other people that they can give more responsibility to. They just don't, they're not willing to. And then that person ends up leaving in reality, the people that are in that organization because they're not getting the growth opportunities.
Right, right.
They want to have more responsibility. So, yeah. Well, I'm a huge fan of your place. I love your restaurant. I actually have my first time at your place. I didn't live here, so I just moved down to North Carolina back in last July. So I was up in Boston, but my sister, you may know my twin sister Julie Draper,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and her husband Jeff and Gavin and Lily, their kids. I came down here, probably 2, 3 times a year, and one of the times they came down, it was Thanksgiving, probably 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, and I was surprising them, so they didn't know I was coming, and I'm like, well, it'd be kind of a cool thing to just show up. Nobody knows I'm coming. My parents are down here too, and I'm like, but if I'm gonna do that, I got to really do this up and kind of make it a funny, goofy thing. So I decided to dress up in disguise. So I flew here, like, not dressed up because that probably wouldn't be good to dress up, in a disguise on a plane going through an airport.
Well, it
But
kind of depends what the disguise is.
well, it's funny. I got a picture of it. I'll show you in a sec. And so I ended up going. I ended up getting into an Uber. I had this whole like disguise with long hair. I had a fake nose. I had like, I had these sunglasses on, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get dressed as a pizza delivery guy, and get pizzas and just show up at their door. And
Goodness.
so I didn't know any pizzerias around, and I found Homegrown. So I went in and I ordered the pizzas. I walked in to pick them up, and this was what I don't know if you can see that picture.
Awesome.
So I literally looked like nothing like, and I know people are listening, they're not watching, but I looked like, I looked like a freak, and I looked
Yeah.
like this guy that was this, guy you didn't want to mess with. So I walked in there, and it was the funniest thing because it must have been, maybe a 16-year-old girl that was at the register right when you walk in,
Uh-huh.
and she looked at me, and I had my glasses on, my hat. It clearly I was a fake nose, and she's looking at me, and I saw this look of terror in her eye, and she wouldn't look at me again. She put her head down, and she was like, can I help you, sir?" She was real nervous, and everybody looked at me, and they like did this like, "What?" Like, I just scared the crap out of everybody in the place, and got my pizza and left. So it was so
That's
funny.
funny.
And then went and surprised my sister with two, and the family with two pizzas, and they're like, "Oh my god!" It was really
That's
cool.
good.
So that's
That's great.
my
I
first
would have liked
homegrown.
to have seen everyone's reaction, both in the restaurant
Yeah.
and when you got to your sister's house.
Oh yeah. I think some people in the restaurant were thinking, okay, maybe we need to get out of here fast. Like something's gonna go down.
Yeah. Do we need
It's-
to mark this time for the cameras, just
yeah, right.
just in case something happens?
Yeah, I should go back in there, and like I'm sure the person may not be there, but it was so funny. I loved her reaction. I wish I could have gotten a picture of it. Yeah. So, but yeah, congrats on all this stuff. Honestly, Dan, you run a great place.
Thank you.
I'll give you my plug. I think anybody that hasn't gone to your restaurant definitely needs to, and it's it's a fantastic place. What's the best thing on the menu?
Myself, I would go with the wings. I love our wings and the blue cheese dressing. I
All
mean,
right.
that's
All right.
that's that's probably the blue cheese is probably what we're most known for.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Homemade blue cheese. Yep.
I'm a big wing guy, so I'll do that for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
There you go.
cool.
Our biggest wing day of the year coming up on Sunday. I'll spend like 4 straight hours before the Super Bowl just doing nothing but cooking wings.
Wow. All right. Well, I will be a customer for sure
Sounds
on
good.
Sunday.
Sounds
So
good.
got to load up with a lot of wings. Well, this has been awesome, Dan. Honestly, I really appreciate you sharing all your great advice and everything. Anything else? I mean, in terms of final words of wisdom from to leaders, and you got people that are listening that are, business owners, restaurant owners, but coaches, like your wife, Kimberly, teachers.
Yes.
You got corporate executives, CEOs, or people that just want to learn to lead in general better. Any words of wisdom that you'd leave them with?
I think for me, I just always go back to, be a worker bee, be the hardest worker every day. Lead by example. People will follow you if you're, going with everything you have into, whatever it is you're doing, coaching, working, family life. That's like my, since I was a kid, my parents told me, when you go to work, be the hardest worker. Make sure every person that ever works with you, for you, thinks that you're the hardest worker they know. And that just is my mantra, pretty much. Just work hard.
That's great. You're not a guy who does things halfway. I could
No, I'm really not. If I'm doing it, I'm going to do it the best I might do it wrong. I might screw it up, but it's never going to be from lack of effort.
Yeah.
Ever.
That's awesome. Well, awesome words of wisdom. That's a great message to leave everybody with. And for those listening that haven't gone to the restaurant, it's right in Holly Springs, is that Holly Springs Road, or what road
It's
is
on
it?
the corner of Holly Springs Road and Linksland Drive.
Okay, got it. And what's the website if they want to connect online?
Homegrownpizza.com.
Easy enough. We'll put it in the show notes.
Pretty easy.
Awesome. Well, thanks again,
Yeah.
Dan. Greatly appreciate you being here, and hopefully I'll get you back another time.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for listening today's episode of Tomorrow's Leader. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, and go down below, give 5-star reviews. Of course, always love your ideas for future shows, topics, and also future guests. Thanks for joining us today. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.